Hello and welcome to the Priestess Society podcast, episode 2. I am Natasha and I'm joined by my co-founder and co-host Hannah Ashtara. And today we're going to be diving into the false twin flame narrative and movement that has swept the New Age spiritual community, and just speak a little bit about restoring the true twin flame architecture and shifting away from these kind of Disney fantastical areas that a lot of people have got lost in when it comes to the twin flame path and purpose of that connection and that architecture, and start moving it and orientating it towards love and truth, which is why it's emerging so prevalently on the planet, because it's really needed right now. But it's important that we don't get lost in these cul-de-sacs of illusion. So lots to talk about on this, lots to dive into. When it comes to what the twin flame connection isn't, we're really sort of looking to shatter the conditioning and the fantasies that I think perhaps have been projected from, our media, our Hollywood and love stories and all of these most sort of fantastical ideas we have about love, which are very much based on actually quite codependent and limited paradigms that don't really consider the path of service, and really recognizing that these unions, divine unions and sacred union partnerships, are actually in service to something greater and not just in service to self and our own gratification. So for me, when it comes to what these partnerships are not and what this architecture is not, it's not a Disney love story. It's not a perfect romance. It's not about I've met the perfect person for me, and it's actually for me not about a person. That's really key, that it's not about a person. And I think that this is one of the big things that it will be great for us to dive into today, because I think that that's what's most prominently promoted in the current wave of twin flame content, that it's about one person. It's about your masculine or your feminine, and that being one physical incarnated being. But actually, what we've been discussing and what has been really emerging for me, especially in the last year and a half, is a recognition that twin flame is an architecture and is not about a physical connection itself. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel first, let's say that what I would actually probably just get started with as well is that it is very difficult when you first initiated into this path to kind of see that, right? That architecture, because it's something so profound and different that it hits you. And then of course we do fall into these romantic stories, because that's all we know. That's the relationship template that's on the earth at the moment. So divine unions are very new for a lot of people and still very, very rare. So the first thing you kind of do, you think like, what is this? What is this just happened? What did this person awakened within me? And then you go to Google and then you start Googling, and then you come across a twin flame, and then you fall into that template, right? And then you fall into all of this distortions, and then you think, oh, this is what it is, and then you start making and then you start living in a fantasy in a way, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that's kind of also acknowledging everybody who's on this journey, and just having compassion and love for ourselves, to move through these initial moments of this journey, because it brings up so much unresolved trauma and and shadow. So there has to be a lot of compassion, and it's just being so mirrored and reflected by this other person. So I guess that's first, probably, that just I feel needs acknowledging.
Yes,
And
and we've both
I
been
guess,
there.
and we both been
We've
there.
both been there. Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, we've both been there. Yeah, so acknowledging all of this, and yeah, having compassion with ourselves for the journey we are moving through, right? And then seeing the larger picture, seeing the larger picture, and everywhere where we are getting stuck and looping back and forth with this person, and just bringing the frequency back to us, and using that as a mirror, because there are these beautiful mirrors that we can use to see where we are at this journey, and then coming, acknowledging that this is a journey of the heart, first of all, and it's a journey of returning to love, returning to God, returning to balance between the divine feminine and divine masculine, and just restoring this beautiful divine architecture that is reflected within us and within all of creation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
And how would you define twin flame? If now, with where you've been on your journey and where you've landed now, what would be your definition of twin flame at this point?
So, well, for me, the twin flame really is mostly it's the two flames within me of the weaving of my divine feminine and divine masculine, and that you could also say it's the weaving of the divine mother and divine father within me, and that's also reflected with my divine feminine and divine masculine. So that's the two flames constantly weaving and interweaving within me, but then of course I see it as within, so without, because as everything is always reflected without, so there is a masculine to the feminine, and there is a feminine to the masculine, because to keep everything in coherence, it has to be. So that is that kind of divine reflection of your inner divine masculine for the woman in a divine masculine embodiment of a man. But of course it can be, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same sex. It can be two females and each have the divine feminine and divine masculine polarity within them. So it's not to say that necessarily has to be a female and a male body, but is as the frequency embodied.
Yeah, I think that's important to speak on as well, because it's an interplay within us first that then has us kind of naturally finding coherence in our kind of more predominant pole, the pole that we more rest in this incarnation. We tend to lean more towards feminine or masculine in our expression. Yeah. Even though we carry both, it's like the yin and the yang, right? So the yin also contains the yang principle, the dot of the yang, and vice versa with the yang, with the yin principle contained within it. So it's kind of when we begin that weaving within ourselves, it starts to bring us back into kind of natural coherence and what our natural pole is to rest in. And I think that that's what meeting a physical counterpart or a physical sort of other polarity expression as a man or a woman or whoever you go through this dance with, that's what I suppose makes the journey so profound, because it starts to orientate you towards your natural polarity. Yeah. That when you're faced with the mirror of, for us, a man who holds a lot of masculine energy, it automatically starts to kind of pivot you into your kind of more organic space and seat as a feminine being. I know that was certainly the case for me, that in meeting the man that catalyzed this process for me, his reflection really started to orientate me more deeply into my own feminine embodiment.
Yeah, it's same happened for me actually. Exactly the same. It's just like he's moved me into my feminine like nobody else. Yeah, it felt very natural. It's like suddenly the polarity, it's like it balances itself when it's the right, when the two of you are in the right frequency, then there is a coherence, but there is also a lot of, this kind of population, I guess, because the frequencies kind of need to rebalance around each other.
Yes.
So, and I guess you will be probably experiencing more because you're in a divine union and feel beloved. So you
Yeah.
know more about that, how the frequencies work. Because
Yes.
yeah.
Well, what I would say, my experience has been
Mm,
sort of having been this
mm,
on this journey for about 7 years now, with with this initial counterpart that awakened this journey for me, and that really was my coming to God moment. The moment I saw him,
yeah.
that was the coming to God moment.
Mm,
The light. I was literally bathing in light, the light of awareness, the light of love, and it was. I always described that moment as though the tectonic plates shifted,
yeah.
and I couldn't unsee what I'd just seen, which is that I had been living in sort of a fraction of what I thought love was,
Mm,
and I was open to the heavens opened. And I think it's natural when you have those sorts of experiences that, of course, you start to attach that level of love to the other. Oh my gosh, I've never
yeah.
experienced this level of love. The capacity to love like this has never been opened like this before. It must be because of this individual in front of me. And so what I recognized is that that level of light and that level of divine illumination, that when we first meet the counterpart, the reason that that happens is because it's relative to how much we haven't integrated that light yet. We can only go through that extreme of like, oh my gosh, there's so much light, and I'm going to attribute that light to the other, when we haven't integrated it within ourselves. And that's why we go through these undulations with the waves of extreme push
Yeah.
pulling.
Yeah.
It's to sort of iron out those kinks, all the places where we're outsourcing that love to something else. And then what I found is it's very much like a wave of frequency, which starts very much undulating at the highest heights, the deepest depths, and it pull, push, very, very extreme
Yeah.
undulations. And then the more integrated we become within ourselves, and we start to recognize the divine mirroring the other is providing. And that's why this is for me a journey of self-mastery, and really not about the other. The other is the mirror that God is providing for us to come into this journey of self-mastery in this way. Those undulations and those waveforms start to ease out, and the push pulling becomes less intense. So with my beloved now in our connection, it's not to say that we don't move through human waves of needing space and having our own opinions on things, but the harmony that we kind of reside in naturally, and even the harmony that was established between me and my initial counterpart, the catalyst counterpart, after we both kind of reached what felt like a 0 point, sort of 4 or 5 years into the journey, we both reached the same point of being able to come to a space of non-attachment, and we'd finally cleared out the karmic disharmony that was keeping us in these push-pull dynamics, and the trauma bonding. So once that happened, it sort of showed me that, oh yeah, the waveform starts to settle. It becomes a lot more harmonic in the way that we vibrate, and it allows for a much more easeful weaving. And I actually truly feel now that because there's been so much more opening to the divine, and so much more opening to the love within myself, that level of extreme sort of awakening that happened when I first met the counterpart 7 years ago could never happen again, because I was asleep compared to how I feel now. And so that was an extreme contrast that it provided me with. So the more integrated we become in the love that we experience through these connections, the less that we recognize that the love is not attributed to the other. And I do feel that that's a core part of this discussion, and really taking the focus away from the love being about another person, respecting, honoring the other mirror, but actually the shift in the narrative in the twin flame community needs to move away from focus on the other and coercing and manipulating and trying to create some agenda to be with the other, and instead recognizing that actually the other is being used as a medium and a catalyst for you to know God more deeply.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting because I came to that 0 point as well, like straight at the beginning, probably within a year with the first catalyst. But yeah, for me, it's interesting because, you know, I've been through this now with two different men, through this twinning kind of frequency. And it's interesting because with the first one, I fell in love very quickly. Like within 4 months, I was like, you know, something opened up for me, and of course he kind of, you know, awakened within me that love of God. But then I kind of very much associated it with him. So it was very. So I was stuck in a lot of that loop for those first 2 years before, you know, I let go of that connection. So I completely understand, you know, same as what women go through, and masculine as well, that they are more in that feminine frequency, what they move through during these relationships. But when the second one came in, I never fell in love, you know. It was different. It was very different. And I guess I suppose I was still healing my heart, my broken heart from, you know, because it was so soon after the other one. So, and I felt already in a divine union with God, and I felt much more integrated. So it was not that. Yeah. It was a completely different relationship, different frequency that kind of weaved. And so I kept, I didn't even know who he was until all the frequency awakened several months later. So, and then because I see, for me, because I see the different timelines that we had together, and I started getting a lot of insight into the divine union template. So for me, the journey is slightly different. So I get a lot of insight into the very original divine union templating, and the very ancient codes that I download a lot of the ancient codes, and through him, and he kind of awakened that. So that's what I started seeing. So the love that I felt, it wasn't actually coming through this 3D reality. It was coming through that original template that I've been downloading, and that's where I started tapping into that true love that is there within the divine union, and I felt that coming through him. So it's a quite unusual journey for me, but I kind of now have an insight what the true divine union is, you know, and I'm very clear about that. Is it is not, you know, romantic relationship as we know it, as we would like to, that the twin flame community is selling. It is not about that. Although that profound love is there, it is there, of course it is there, and it's something beyond that we've ever experienced until, you know, in other soulmate relationships, because the depth is there, and because there's a devotion, and once you have devotion, that uplifts, that takes everything into the next level. But really the true divine unions are about service, you know, and they have very strong king and queen codes woven in. And the love there is within the divine union, and I know it because I feel it within my heart, within my whole being. There's a profound love orientated towards the people, the land, the community, your. So I see it as a king and queen. So obviously that's your land, your people, and that's what I'm really, tapping into. And then there's this love between you two, which is so profound and coherent. And of course, you in a way, I don't want to say complete because it's again can be twisted, but it's like there is this beautiful coherence between the divine feminine and divine masculine when you both land in that place. That is just, yes, it's a beautiful template. The original divine union is a beautiful template.
I think it's really important to speak about the king and queen templating and recognizing that the journey invites us to rise into that architecture, which is about sovereignty and reclaiming our divine refinement and regality and dignity as beings. Yeah. That's, for me, what the king-queen templating is about. When I feel into that, it is that reclamation of our sovereignty and our autonomy as sons and daughters of the divine, and being ungovernable from that place. So not answering to external authorities, but God as the authority. And crucially, kind of the leadership piece really comes through. So regardless of the kind of doorway in, whether we've had timelines where there have been physical stewardship of land and people, and there have been actual royal incarnations, that template for me of the king-queen architecture is really that of leadership. And it's leadership in collaboration to recognize that we're not islands, that we're moving from these hyper individual states of severing back into community, back into coherence. And that leadership doesn't have to be big and grand, as we can kind of almost have these connotations with king and queen, that is something very big and majestic. Not everyone's mission will look that way, but it's actually just making sure that we are still resurrecting that mature masculine feminine frequency within, and not the prince and the princess, the maiden. The maiden energy is the feminine, which is that sort of underdeveloped, beautiful innocence of the maiden, but it can be the underdeveloped feminine energy, and it's rising into the mother and the father frequencies, which you've mentioned at the beginning.
That's exactly what it is, isn't it, actually? Yeah. Because that's exactly what you move through during this journey. You move from that princess, prince, and this, like I want, into this like maturity. And that's mostly what the journey is about. It is actually about maturing and growing up, and no longer acting from your own pain and your own trauma, but seeing a bigger picture in everything,
Yes.
coming in into so much more compassion and love and acceptance of others, yourself included, but others as well, and seeing others pains. Not just your own anymore. It's like it's not just about me, is it? It is not just about me. So, and then once that happens, then exactly that leadership that starts weaving through you, and that's one of the reasons why we created the Priestess Society, right? Because then the soul wants to rise, and it wants to serve, and that's what happens on once you move onto this journey. It's a natural process that everyone moves through once you see what it is, and use this journey, use this to lead you and take you where you need to be, where your soul wants to take you, because that's initiated by the soul, this journey, right?
Yeah. And really, really kind of recognizing that beautiful recognition of sort of the other person that we experience this love through is opening us to God, opening us to communion within. And it's from that place that we can enact the service you're speaking about. That it becomes, we move from that templating that's been so common on planet Earth of service to self, and really starting to restore the service to the pillar, making sure that it's not just self-serving, making sure that it's not just martyrdom, that it's the full pillar of, the energy centers, the primary energy centers above the heart and below the heart. So it's that communion and that union architecture, as you said at the beginning of this podcast, it's echoed through everything. It's echoed and mirrored through everything. It's echoed through nature. It's echoed through our energy body. We are shown always that there is this beautiful weaving between the polarities, and together there is this coherence. And it does feel that when we can reach a point of maturity, which is really, for me, also what this path is about, it's spiritual maturity. It's one path of mastery, that it asks us and invites us to start to rise out of outdated constructs, concepts, and outsourcing power. And it asks us to come back into states of alignment and coherence so that we can actually become self-sourced. And by that, really, it's being sourced from the spark, the divine source, the spark within us of the God seed. So it's really coming back into communion with God. That maturity then it allows for much more harmonious connections within ourselves. It alchemizes and purifies us on the journey. We go through these push-pulls. We see the trauma, we see all the places that we're codependent, that we've got these, insecure attachments, that we feel in some way that we lack something. And it brings us into deeper communion with the love that's always been here and is always available to us. And then we can start to really come into these partnerships where there is a maturity that's mirrored through our own inner maturity.
Yeah, exactly. And then I feel that, you come together. The mission is so strongly woven in the divine union, in this template. You come together for a mission because, you and me now, we are at this point. It's like nothing satiates us anymore, No. That unless it's a soul-driven mission, and it's big enough to that gets me up from the bat, right? It's like I can no longer just focus on just some little business. It just doesn't. I've tried it all already. I've done everything possible that I was inspired by and I wanted to learn, and now it's like I need more now. I need more. I just need to satiate this hunger that I have, that my soul has, that she knows she came here for something bigger. She's not here to play small, and she's like, you're not gonna play small anymore. So it's like she just drives me now. She wants to drive me, and I'm like, I'm just gonna have to let her, because she's like, she's not gonna let me just play small anymore. And and you and me both now, we came to the point, we created the Priestess Society that is, really supporting us and supporting others with this template and to really come into this mastery. But it's also now we are really coming to the point where we want to create something tangible, right? Yes. A very hands-on. It's like, I need to create something with my hands. I need to see it.
Yes.
In the physical, and that's kind of the point then where we both came, and it's also this journey of this healing, and now bringing everything together, all of the skills, the gifts, everything that we've amassed this lifetime, that we've been learning, because of course all these little paths and journeys we have taken was all leading to something, right? So we can now all draw everything together and bring more people together and really, start embodying this true co-created template.
Yes.
Yeah, and start building this, what we call the new era for the place where we want to live.
Yes, and that's such a beautiful sort of weaving in to the reason why even this twin flame architecture is starting to arise within collective consciousness now. that it's not just coincidence that it's arising at a time when we're kind of on the precipice of mass change as a humanity, and we have sort of these quite scary potential timelines available to us if we continue to perpetuate the same ways.
Yeah.
But this templating has come through. There's enough hunger spiritually on earth and within us as souls ready, who've been preparing for this journey, to come to earth ready to awaken at another level of our being, so that when we go through this path of awakening through the twin flame architecture, we are awakened to our dharma, our mission, which is to serve, which is much bigger than the conditioning we've been taught. It's go and write the book you were destined to write that's going to change people's lives. Go and do the thing that lights you up, because when it lights you up, it lights the world up too. And this is the energy that we're shifting into. And that energy is the channel through which we birth the new earth, because I feel those of us who are really working from this architecture, our deepest desires are married to the vision to the new earth. They're not separate. We've come in to be an essential piece of the puzzle. Every single person offers their own unique brilliance and genius and beauty to this puzzle of unfolding the new earth, bringing it into fruition. And it really is born out of this level of mastery and this level of coherence with God. And from that space, when we've released our ideas about how we think things should be, based on our conditioning, based on our trauma, we've cleared those rose-tinted spectacles. We're finally open and free to receive the blueprint. And when I was in meditation a few days ago and I was connecting to the light of the heart, it occurred to me in that moment, I heard the blueprint for your Dharma is encoded in this light. So when you clear the distortions, when you clear the things that obscure our connection to the light within, then the blueprint for why we came here becomes much more available to us. And that blueprinting is directly connected to whatever needs to be restored and balanced on earth. It means that we really recognize that this is a web of life that we are a part of, not a singular, island being, as this kind of wounded paradigm has sold us, that we've got to do it all alone, we've got to struggle, we've got to hustle. And actually, no, we're part of a much wider ecosystem of life on earth that has the potential for so much beauty and bounty, and to rise above all of these struggle, scarcity narratives that have been so prevalent. And we're both really coming into this space within ourselves now of realizing that, gosh, the struggle, it's time to let that go. We don't need it, because the bounty is here. It's always been here. And it comes through our embodiment.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's like, also what's coming up is like no more waiting. Do not wait for your twin. Do not wait for the money. Do not wait for anything. Just walk the freaking path. Just take the step and take another, and a baby step every day, and just keep going, because what I've been clearly shown last night, it was like, we really want to, I was like talking to God, like, we really need some money because we want to really start building. And he was like, and then I had like, what makes you think you don't have the money? Just start doing it. The money will come.
Yes.
So everything's already here because you wouldn't have the desire. So no more waiting. Just go out there and do it, whatever it is that you are encoded to do, because we all have these. I see it that we all have, everything's within us. We have these codes, we have this knowledge, we have it all. It will light up, as you're saying. This light will lead you, because it lights up within you. It's like it's like the cellular memory within your body, and everything, that it just starts lighting up, and it starts coming online as you start deepening in this process.
Yes. And I feel that what you've just mentioned about this guidance about stop waiting for the money and stop waiting for the beloved and keep walking, this is a really important part of reclaiming our creator consciousness. Because it means that we're no longer being governed by the conditional reality. Or I can only be happy when the beloved comes in, when there's money in the bank. No, recognize, rise above this material plane having dominion over your consciousness, and recognize that you're creating this, that you are affecting matter, not the other way around. Remember your true power. and recognize that we came here to create. And that when you keep devoting yourself to that knowing, cultivating it, allowing it to flourish within you, and you really kind of move towards that with devotion and integrity and a real kind of fierce passion for this path, everything else comes into fruition and manifestation in ways that the mind could never get to anyway. You could never plan and orchestrate our way there. I could never have planned how I was going to meet my beloved. There is room for the great mystery to co-create with us, and then there is our space to just be the receiver of the guidance and to enact it. And that's a really important part, I think, of switching to this creator consciousness, that the waiting to let the waiting go, this narrative that you have to wait for anything. Can you recognize that the great mystery, there are no accidents, there are no mistakes, that everything is done and enacted from the will of the one, that you don't have to worry about missing the boat, missing the person. You will never, nothing that's ever for you will ever go past you. Ever.
Yeah, and I feel, since we are talking about twin flames, losing this attachment is everything, because once you come into this divine union, right, and when it's really integrates within your heart, then it really doesn't matter whether they are there or not, because you already, you are completed within yourself. So that is just a cherry on a cake, but it's not. It's like you are good, you're fine. You feel the bliss, you feel the love. I feel the bliss, I feel the love. It's just like it's there. It's there. There's nobody else can give that to you. You cannot expect that from anybody else. And I guess that's another of the pitfalls, right, of the twin flame community, that when you're on this journey at the beginning, you think like that person is the source of that love. I need that person, and everybody's just gets stuck in that, like, when is he coming back, no. let go of that. He cannot give it to you. He cannot give it to you what you're not giving to yourself. So it's between you and God. It's and if you if you don't want to use the word God, and the higher power, the higher source, your higher self, you source it all through God, through Divine Mother, Father God, and then when you dissociated and filled, you lose the need for anything else. You lose the need for that person. You stop looking for that within them or whatever else you are looking for it, outside of yourself. So,
I almost feel like the counterpart is a big juicy carrot dangled by the divine to say, will you be tempted to believe that this is the source of all nourishment, of all love? And will you keep following that carrot, or will you recognize the source of the love, and that person is also an expression of that love as you are? But as you've said quite rightly, that love doesn't ever come from the other. It's always experienced directly within, and that person's just a mirror, allowing you to witness that and open to more of your allness. So I feel that really recognizing that, this is a beautiful sort of, not, I don't like to use the word test, but it feels it's a challenge. Like, can you keep your eyes on God? Because anything that we are putting above God is false worship. It doesn't matter if it's a person or a material, a set of material possessions, financial circumstances, anything. If we are choosing to be loyal to our own ideas, agenda, and expectations of what should happen over the flow and the orchestration of the divine working through us, we are worshipping false idols. And that is not the true way. That is not the true template. So I really totally agree. And I think that the severing of the attachments. No one wants to, I've been speaking about this even with you. I've been saying for years, you know, no one wants to hear that you've got to let it all go. There is this desire, no, but it's him. And it's in that moment when we kind of get to the point where we think, okay, so whatever is happening in this connection, you will never be asked to give up anything that's in your best and highest good. And actually, whenever people come with these strong attachments, you can always ask them, is the person in your reality showing up as the masculine or the feminine expression that you most long for? Are they actively in your reality with the loyalty, the devotion, the integrity, everything you would desire in a partner? The answer is always no. There is always some compromise. No, they're not, he's not, she's not, but if I just keep waiting, and that's where the carrot, they keep choosing the carrot over the truth. That they're looking at the potential of the being, which is beautiful to see, and not the actualization of what's in front of you. Is that a devoted, loyal, honest, goddess-driven individual, someone that's on that path and mission with you? Or are you still attached to the idea of them and their potential and what they could be? You know, and it's when we finally can become lucid to that we finally see, okay, can I recognize, I remember, you know, my final moment was, God, you have shown me, you have opened me to a love I didn't think was possible. And I trust that there is no going back from this, that I cannot unsee what I've seen. I cannot unknow a love like this. It is within me, it resides within me. So either I will experience this or better. I will open even further to the infinite bounty of love. There's no regression. There's no going back. And so I think maybe the last thing to speak about for today is just that recognition of the fluidity of the mirror we might have, that you've had two men being mirrors for this path for you. I also now have had, you know, the first counterpart and now my beloved, who has, I really feel, come in after this kind of harmony within me was established, and therefore it has kind of been mirrored in our connection. He's also a very, very beautiful, harmonious individual. That the mirror may change, the external reflection within us, you know, what am I trying to say? The reflection that the person provides us is always what the focus needs to be, not the mirror. Yeah. They may change, that person may change, but the architecture you've moved through, if you resonate with this conversation, is true. The architecture that you are being awakened to God again, so that you can serve this earth, that is true.
Yes.
And it is a blueprint, and it's far bigger than a person. Also honoring the beautiful individuality of the other person who you've been on the journey with, not belittling their part, not you know, demeaning or degrading them, but just putting it in rightful place in relation to the divine, not positioning them above God.
Yeah, I feel as well that you know, for some of us, like, you know, you and me, we move through this so quickly, because we also, you know, as we were kind of talking about this week, we mirror within each other as well. So we work, you know, like almost on like a twin flame template between each other, right? So that's what we realized, because we constantly pushing each other forward. So since like we did the first podcast, we have grown about thousands of times. It's like the embodiment deepened, my heart opened. It's like my heart is like filling the whole chest. I was like, whoo, when did that happen? It's like, you know, so this journey can be fast if you recognize it for what it is, and yes. you can move really quickly in deepening in the embodiment, right? Yes. with the divine, with the sacred. And it is difficult for the men to catch up with, because they move in a very different pace, and they don't necessarily want to do the work.
Yes.
You know, they do not want to face the trauma. They they don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go to their hearts. So it's, it is fair to, and it's nothing wrong with it. Everybody has their free will. And so holding on to someone it does not serve you, because, you are on your own evolution. So this can be a very fast journey. This is an accelerated ascension path. Being a twin flame, being in this, working within this template. So you've got to let people go. You have to learn to let people go, hold them in love, hold them in compassion, but don't stay attached to them, because, you come, each, as I say, each have their own journey, each have their own free will, and they will move at the pace that's comfortable for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just recognize that and choose God, and keep going, and the right people will realign around you, and that will be, continually happening, because you continue moving through all this death and rebirth.
Yeah.
But you can no longer stop it. This is the path you are on.
Yeah.
And you're walking. So honor yourself, have love for yourself, have love for the others, but let go.
Let go and let God.
Let go, let God in.
Yeah, and I think that's a really beautiful remembrance of our conversation earlier this week about how we've been moving through this mirroring, and I've observed this in maybe one or two other sisterhood friendships as well, that also started to expand my awareness beyond twin flame as this one person. Because I started to experience about a year and a half ago this connection, or rather this template, sorry, not a connection, this template, as I said to you on the phone, it was almost more like a plant medicine journey, where I started to see reality as dynamic, not linear, this thing, then this thing, one person, then the other thing, but actually very dynamic, and that everything is a fractal expression of my inner reality. And if I'm moving through the union weaving within, that is then mirrored. And I've had countless people in the last 6 months say to me, I feel like you're my twin. I feel like we're twinning. And I know that is confirmation that friends feeling like I feel like we're twins. And the reason for that is because that's the architecture that I'm working from. And the people around me, being fractal expressions of my own consciousness, are also mirroring back to me that we are going on parallel journeys, and that there is this synchronicity and this kind of coherence starting to come into the field. And so it's really like, it's hard for me to put into words, but it's really moving from this very kind of like almost 2D understanding, like, I mean 2D is in like very flat, very flat understanding of twin flame as one plane, one person. No, it's multidimensional. It's spiral-like, it's cycle-like, it's fractal-like, and it's highly dynamic, and it will be mirrored across your reality, not just with one person. And that's really beautiful and sacred to start kind of accessing that dynamic understanding of reality, and how truly co-creative this experience is. It is based on our own consciousness. So yeah, I'm in complete agreement that it can actually be a very quick journey, not through force, but just through the recognition of more truth.
Yeah. And the constant unfolding of the heart and opening of the heart.
Yeah. Amen, sister. Well, let's leave that here. I think that was a beautiful, juicy, deep dive journey that we've been on. And I look forward to many more like this, because I feel like we could both speak endlessly on this subject. There's so much to dive into. If you have any requests for content, subjects that you'd like us to dive into, specific to perhaps sacred union or the wider divine union and inner union template, please feel free to let us know. We have a YouTube channel available with this content online, as well as through your standard podcast outlets. So it's been an honor, Hannah. Beautiful to chat with you today, as we chat every day. We could record most of our conversations as podcasts, but we've tried to be a bit more formal with this. So gorgeous to chat with you today, and looking forward to episode 3.
Beautiful speaking, darling.
Thank you for listening, everyone. Deep honourings of your journey, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon.